I have the honor of doing an introduction that I've looked forward to for some time. There is one recurring theme that could describe our keynote speaker tonight. When it comes to doing the right thing, he is fearless. Time after time throughout his career in public service, he has acted boldly and decisively to confront daunting challenges facing his state. For much of the past decade in New Jersey, our speaker earned the reputation as the worst nightmare for corrupt politicians because as the hardworking U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, he sought and won convictions against more than 100 corrupt public officials without losing a single case. In addition to cleaning up political corruption in New Jersey, our speaker prosecuted gangs, terrorists, polluters, and child pornographers. His winning record earned national attention. He developed a reputation for focusing on work that was tough and at times controversial, and for never taking the easy path. New Jersey Governor Christie has courage, and he has vision, and we're thrilled that he's now putting that courage and vision into education reform so desperately needed in his state. Last year, when Governor Christie ran for the office he now holds, he didn't just take the easy path when it came to issues of educational opportunity. He ran as an unapologetic supporter of school vouchers, expansion of public charter schools, and taking on the teachers' unions. In a stunning upset over a powerful incumbent, Christie won his election as governor of New Jersey last November, and he prevailed despite an onslaught of attack ads bankrolled by millions of dollars from New Jersey's teachers' unions. In one of his first acts as the state's chief executive, he boldly appointed a visionary leader to serve as New Jersey's education commissioner, former Alliance for School Choice board member and Jersey City Mayor, our friend Brett Schundler, who is right here. And speaking of honored guests from New Jersey, we are so thrilled to be joined this evening by the First Lady of New Jersey, Mary Pat Christie. And now, supported by parents, community leaders, and allies such as the excellent Education for Everyone organization, Governor Christie is taking on the education status quo like no other governor in America today. He is bringing Democrats and Republicans together to support tax credit scholarship legislation that will ensure that kids who are trapped in New Jersey's worst public schools get access to the schools of their choice. He's bold, decisive, unafraid to tell the truth, and he's fighting to give kids hope. And with his impressive track record, we're behind him all the way. New Jersey is truly the new frontier in the battle for school choice. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the American Federation for Children, please join me in welcoming one of America's most courageous leaders for school choice and education reform, the governor of the great state of New Jersey, the Honorable Christie.
It's great to be here tonight. On the topic of education, Mary Pat and I decided that we needed to travel about 240 miles to find a whole room full of friends at the moment. So it's great to be here and to be with all of you. I first want to thank Betsy for her great introduction and her very kind invitation to be here. We're in the midst of a pretty horrific budget crisis in New Jersey. I came into a $2.2 billion budget gap for this fiscal year 10, ending June 30th. Had to take quick executive action in the first 2 weeks to freeze $2.2 billion in funding to bring John Corzine's bloated budget into balance for this year. And we have a $10.7 billion budget deficit looming for fiscal 11 on a $29 billion budget. This is years of mismanagement, overtaxation, overregulation, and just runaway spending on the part of the state of New Jersey and our local municipalities and school boards that have contributed to this. And I bring it up just to let you know that because of the scope of that problem, we've had a number of invitations for us to come out and start to tell New Jersey's story at different places around the country. And Rich Bagger, my chief of staff, who's here with me tonight, and I have just, steadfastly refused them, not because we're not interested in doing it, but because, we both really believe that my focus should be on staying at home through the end of the fiscal year to get this budget passed on June 30th with no tax increases on the people of the state of New Jersey. And we have proposed a budget that balances that, makes $10.7 billion in cuts without any tax increases on the people of New Jersey. And so we need to fight to get that passed. But when Betsy and the American Federation for Children reached out, I said to Rich, this is one we have to make an exception for. Because when I was running for governor last year, I had a number of my friends who were part of the campaign who would follow me around, and then, as only friends of long standing can do, would critique, how you're doing. They would say to me all the time, your stump speech is good, you're doing really well, but man, when you talk about that education portion of it, that's where you're most passionate. And they were right, because that's the thing to me that once we straighten out New Jersey's fiscal problems, that's one thing. But New Jersey's fiscal problems will never be fixed in the long term if we don't fix our educational system. So that's why I'm here tonight. Mary Pat and I travel to Washington tonight, and I'll travel back to New Jersey tomorrow because we believe so deeply in what you're doing. We believe so passionately about what this organization stands for and what all of you individually are doing in your individual states around the country to try to make educational choice a reality across America. And in New Jersey, let me say this, with a teachers union that collects $130 million in dues a year from its 200,000 members across our state, in a state that has been dominated politically by a state NJEA, in every way an interest group can dominate a legislature and a series of governors. If we can make this happen in New Jersey over the course of the next 4 years, there is no excuse for anyone anywhere not to get this done. We're going to lead the way. Because our basic principle is this, and I know this is yours. Parents and children deserve a choice. Now, this is a very, very simple, straightforward principle that you would think, in the abstract, that no one could disagree with. But let's not stop there. Let's add the layer onto it that parents and children who are being failed by a public school system whose costs are exorbitant and whose results are insulting deserve a choice. And we don't have to look far around the country from where we are right now to know that voucher programs and experiments in school choice are working, that they're producing results. Here in D.C., here, those in that program are now reading 19 months ahead of their colleagues who are outside of that program. This isn't a coincidence. We know it's not a coincidence. We know that there's over 5 million children trapped in over 10,000 failing public schools around America. And I use the word trapped, and I use it directly. They are trapped by an educational bureaucracy. They are trapped by a selfish, self-interested, greedy school union that cares more about putting money in their own pocket and in the pockets of members than they care about educating our most vulnerable and needy children around the country.